Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
It is a Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Classic Radio Theater podcast. We're going to hear this hour an episode of Calling All Cars, Counterspy, and Dangerous Assignment. That's all straight ahead. Oh, and we'll also check in with Lum and Abner and see what's going on with the prince that healed Lum's broken leg. That wasn't, Anyway, we thank you for tuning in on this Thursday, 3rd day of November, 307th day of the year. We have 58 days remaining until we get to 2024. It was on this date in 1493 Christopher Columbus first sighted the island of Dominica in the Caribbean. The Continental Army disbanded on this date in 1783. A lot of presidential elections on this date in history. In 1868, Republican Ulysses S. Grant elected to the first of his 2 terms in a victory over Democrat Horatio Seymour. Republican William McKinley elected over Democrat William Jennings Bryan in 1896. In 1908, Republican William Howard Taft defeated William Jennings Bryan, the Democratic candidate, in his 3rd and final nomination. In 1911, Chevy officially entered the auto market in competition with the Ford Model T. Panama proclaimed itself independent from Colombia on this date in 1903. President Teddy Roosevelt had wanted the U.S. to build the Panama Canal, wasn't willing to pay what Colombia asked. The U.S. introduced an income tax in 1913, controversial. Back to presidential elections on this date. Franklin D. Roosevelt reelected to a second term in a landslide in 1936 over Alf Landon. Let's get to other things here. The 1956 Hungarian Revolution began on this date, which led to a few days of freedom crushed by the Soviet Union.
10,000 Hungarians crossed the Austrian frontier, ending a desperate race to the west. Behind them, 8 Russian divisions smash into the country to snuff out the 12-day-old freedom. While Russia conceded itself wrong and negotiated withdrawal of all troops, the Panzer divisions were moving, a surprise blow masked by cynical deception. The Iron Curtain slammed down to block off all communication with the West. Only these few escaped, most of them women and children. The men stayed to fight without hope and to face a revival of Stalin's worst oppression. Hungary pays a shocking price for a brief moment of liberty and hope.
As that newsreel footage described, nearly 250,000 people fled the country, former Premier Imre Nagy executed. On this date in 1956, the first in the Godzilla series of films released in Japan in 1954. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 2, on board the first animal to enter orbit, a dog named Laika.
The Soviet Union has launched a second Earth satellite. The satellite is carrying a dog as experimental passenger.
Well, the party from the Canine Defense League have now come out of the embassy. Are you going to take any further steps, Mr. Johns?
Well, we are asking dog lovers everywhere to observe a silent minute at 11 o'clock each morning while this dog is in outer space.
Audio from the Radio Moscow and the BBC. The Soviets' launch of Laika led to an episode of suspense entitled Dog Star, with 7-year-old Evelyn Rudy as the star of the show. We have aired that several times on our Classic Radio Theater Christmas program. More elections. In 1964, incumbent President Lyndon Johnson defeated Republican challenger Barry Goldwater Sr. with over 60% of the vote.
A government that serves no special interest, no business government, no labor government, no farm government, no one faction, no one group, but a government that is the servant of all the people
For his part, Goldwater would go on to say, "I'd rather be right than president." Now, in 1969, President Nixon addressed the nation on television and radio, asking the silent majority to join him in solidarity on the Vietnam War effort and to support his policies.
After 5 years of Americans going into Vietnam, we are finally bringing American men home. By December 15, over 60,000 men will have been withdrawn from South Vietnam, including 20% of all of our combat forces. Let me now turn to our program for the future. We have adopted a plan which we have worked out in cooperation with the South Vietnamese for the complete withdrawal of all U.S. combat ground forces and their replacement by South Vietnamese forces on an orderly, scheduled timetable. I have not and do not intend to announce the timetable for our program. And there are obvious reasons for this decision, which I'm sure you will understand. One of these is the progress which can be or might be made in the Paris talks. An announcement of a fixed timetable for our withdrawal would completely remove any incentive for the enemy to negotiate an agreement. And so tonight, to you, the great silent majority of my fellow Americans, I ask for your support.
That message in 1969. In 1973, U.S. troops being withdrawn from a war that the U.S. was not allowed to prosecute to a victory, just pursue to a draw. And by 1975, South Vietnam fell. In 1973, NASA launched the Mariner 10 toward Mercury on March 29th of 1974, becoming the first space probe to reach that planet. In 1975, an independent audit of Mattel, one of the nation's largest toy manufacturers, revealed company officials fabricated press releases and financial information to maintain the appearance of continued corporate growth. In 1979, 5 members of Communist Workers' Party shot to death, 7 wounded by a group of Klansmen and neo-Nazis during a Death to the Klan rally. In 1980, the Iranian hostage crisis began to finally wind down after almost a year, as hostages who were taken by Iranian students who took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran finally turned over to the Iranian government.
Reports from Tehran state that Ayatollah Khomeini has agreed with the militants that the hostages can be transferred to government control. We believe, as we have said previously, it is in our interest for the government to assume direct responsibility for the well-being and security of the hostages.
Secretary of State Cyrus Vance, on January 20th of 1981, only 20 minutes from Reagan's oath, Iran released all 52 hostages who were flown to West Germany via Algeria, where former President Jimmy Carter took them back to the U.S. The hostages spent 444 days in captivity. In 1986, the Lebanese magazine Ashira reported that the U.S. had been selling weapons to Iran in secret in order to secure the release of 7 American hostages held by pro-Iranian groups in Lebanon. It was on this date in 1992, Democrat Bill Clinton defeated incumbent Republican George Herbert Walker Bush and independent candidate Ross Perot.
On this day, with high hopes and brave hearts, in massive numbers, the American people have voted to make a new beginning.
The Perot candidacy could have been successful had Mr. Perot held more dedication and held into the race better than he did. As it was, he ended up finishing third, claiming no electoral votes. Now, in 1994, after claiming her car had been carjacked with her son still in it and making desperate pleas for the safe return of her children, police investigators announced Susan Smith was being charged with the murder of her children.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children, Michael 3 and Alexander 14 months. The vehicle, a 1990 Mazda, driven by Smith, was located late Thursday afternoon in Lake John D. Long near Union. 2 bodies were found in the vehicle's back seat. Identities are pending an autopsy.
Smith confessed to the drowning and is serving life in prison with no parole possible until 2025. 1998, former professional wrestler Jesse Ventura elected governor of the state of Minnesota, and the state of Minnesota hasn't had a regional governor since Ventura. In 2004, Hamid Karzai declared the winner of Afghanistan's first ever presidential election. 2005, Vice President Dick Cheney's former chief of staff, Scooter Libby, pled not guilty to a 5-count felony indictment in the CIA leak case in 2005. Libby, convicted, President George W. Bush commuted his 30-month prison sentence. In 2014, the One World Trade Center officially opened, the replacement of the World Trade Center Twin Towers in New York City after it had been attacked by 2 planes during the September 11 attacks back in 2001. They reopened in 2014. And the 2020 presidential election took place on this date between Joe Biden and Republican incumbent President Donald Trump on November 7th. Biden declared the winner. Passing away on this date in history, entertainer, target shooter Annie Oakley, French painter Henri Matisse, actress, singer Mary Martin, singer-songwriter Lonnie Donegan. Does your chewing gum lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? Jonathan Harris, Dr. Smith in Lost in Space. Love is Blue, Paul Moriarty, passing away on this date. Very funny magician actor Carl Ballantine, and the lady who sang about the Wheel of Fortune and the rock and roll waltz, K-Star, passing away on this date in history. Among those born on this date include baseball's Bob Feller, actor Charles Bronson, and Ken Berry of The Andy Griffith Show and Mama's Family. Turning 90 today, politician Michael Dukakis. Lulu, To Serve with Love. Oh boy, that was off key. That's different. Lulu, 75. Roseanne Barr, 71. I don't sing like Roseanne Barr, I hope. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom star Kate Capshaw, 70. Also, Dennis Miller turns 70 today. From Rocky IV, Dolph Lundgren, 66. And model Kendall Jenner of the Jenner/Kardashian clan, 28. Those some of the people who celebrate the 3rd day of November is their birthday. If this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And as I said, crime drama this hour of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We start off with a West Coast program going back 85 years, Calling All Cars for Rio Grande Gasoline. November 3rd, 1938, that's up next on this Thursday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Instead of going down, the annual rate of polio cases in this country is going up. Instead of growing panicky with fear in the face of such an unwelcome fact, there is a way in which we all can join the Army, which is fighting to check this trend and ultimately defeat infantile paralysis. We can contribute to the March of Dimes. Give today so that the 1952 March of Dimes will be the biggest ever and a really potent fighting force against polio.
The Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox podcast continues after I remind you about our webpage, classicradio.stream. That is classicradio.stream, where you can stream our podcast. You can also stream it through the Spreaker app or anywhere podcasts are served. The Spreaker app is very convenient for those of you who who listen to us through YouTube, and I would certainly hope you would consider that. The podcast is available at Spreaker.com. Alrighty, now we go back 85 years, November 3rd, 1938, the West Coast program, Calling All Cars.
Calling All Cars, a copyrighted program created by Rio Grande.
Contra Costa Sheriff's Office, calling all cars. Attention all cars, broadcast 258 regarding a missing person. Be on the lookout for Manuel Santos, missing from his home since September 1st. That's all. Rosenquist.
With crisp, wintry weather sneaking up on us, your car needs more than ever the teamwork of smooth-flowing, wear-resisting Riolu motor oil and fast-charging Rio Grande cracked gasoline. Riolu, the 100% paraffin base oil, is sold in cans, not only to prevent dilution or substitution, but to keep it clean so that it may fulfill our promise that motor heat, speed, or winter cold cannot break it down. Riolu will protect every moving part of your motor, and it costs but $0.25 a quart.
Better put some Rio Grande cracked in the tank, Dr. Lindsley.
Oh, yes. But I think I need only remind you, friends, that if you want the best your car can give, you cannot afford to power it with anything less than the gasoline which is found in the tanks of more police cars, fire engines, ambulances, and other public serving equipment wherever it is sold than any other brand. Get Rio Grande cracked, the gasoline that is first with those who know gasoline best. The story we are to hear tonight has been taken from the confidential files of the Sheriff of Contra Costa County. We have therefore asked Sheriff John A. Miller to prepare a foreword for our program from San Francisco.
Recently, I heard a celebrated psychologist say that crime is essential to civilization. In all my career as a peace officer, I have not found that to be a true statement. I have found that crime is an ever-present problem, but I cannot agree that it is an essential one. The psychologist is treading on dangerous ground, in my opinion, when he recommends the breaking of bad laws as a means of eliminating them. There are many unjust laws on the statute books, but they should be eliminated through the channels of the law itself, and not through the actions of lawless savages. That is exactly what a criminal is, a lawless savage. And sooner or later, regardless of how cunning he may be, he'll discover that crime does not pay.
In an Oakland radio station, a program is just being concluded.
And as the concluding number on the Portuguese Hour tonight, Manuel Santos will sing Trianita.
Mi locura una trigueñita que tiene una boca cual miel de flor, que apasionado por sus encantos en un dulce beso le di mi amor a trigueñita. Tus lindos ojitos negros, tu boquita tan divina, tu cuerpecito sin par, tal parece una diosa alabastrina, de ojitos cual la serina, de hermosura sin igual. Trigueñita, yo me siento enamorado desde aquel día sagrado que nos juramos amar. Trigueñita, eres tú la mujercita de más sabrosa boquita que labios pueden besar. Trigueñita de mi vida, trigueñita de mi amor, ven, cuchunga, ven, mamita, que me muero de dolor. De mi vida, trigueñita de mi amor, ven, cuchunga, ven, mamita, que me muero de dolor.
Our scene shifts now to the town of Rodeo. 2 days later, Manuel Pino talks to his friend, Mario.
Mario, you have seen Santos?
Not today.
I don't see him since Tuesday.
Tuesday, that's just 1 day ago.
I know, but he told me Tuesday morning he was going to Oakland to buy a new radio. And I don't see him since.
He was on the radio program Sunday night, no?
Sure, he sang a couple of songs, one in Portuguese and one in Spanish.
I know, I heard him.
Well, anyway, he was at home when I leave for work Tuesday morning. That's when he told me he was going to Oakland to buy the radio. But when I get home, he's not there, and he's not been back since.
Oh, well, maybe he decided to have a good time in Oakland.
Oh, no, I don't think he would do that. He do not want to lose his job at the smelter. You know, would stay away from work unless something had happened to him.
But what could happen to him?
I don't know. There are some guys around here who don't like him. They're jealous because he sings on the radio and all the girls, they rave about him.
Nobody's doing nothing to Santos. He's too popular.
Well, just the same, I go to Oakland and look for him.
I go with you. I got to pay speeding fine in Berkeley.
How about we take your car? Mine, she's not running so good.
All right, but I got to come back by 4 o'clock. We better start about noon.
Okay, pick me up at my house at noon.
3 days later, as an excited town discussed the disappearance of Manuel Santos, the foreman of the smelting company made inquiries.
Hey, Mario, come here a minute.
Yes?
Where's Santos and Pino? Have you seen either of them?
No, not since Wednesday. I see Pino Wednesday.
Well, how about Santos? Has anybody seen him this week?
I don't think so. We went to Oakland to look for him, Pino and me. We couldn't find him.
Well, Pino hasn't been to work this week either. That is, since Wednesday. I'll fire that guy when he does show up.
Maybe something happened to Pino, too.
They'll probably both show up with a terrific hangover.
Pino, maybe, but not Santos. He would not stay away from work if there was not something wrong.
Now, what makes you so sure of that?
He worked hard and saved his money. He got lots of money in the bank. Besides, he would not miss the radio program tomorrow. He must have practiced this afternoon.
Well, maybe you're right. But if them two birds show up drunk, I'll can them both.
At 10 minutes past 9 o'clock next morning, the telephone rang in the home of Deputy Sheriff Beck.
Hello?
Ralph?
Yeah. What's up, Edna?
A couple of boys found a body in the creek at Rodeo and the...
That's Christ's district.
I know it, but I can't locate him, and Sheriff Miller says you better go down and find out what it's all about.
Okay. Call the coroner and the DA's office for me, will you? And I'll go down and look the situation over.
All right. You'll find the constable, Gene Shea, down there already.
I'll be seeing you. Hello, Gene. What's coming off around here?
Lots of excitement in the Portuguese colony.
How come?
Well, word got around pretty fast and we found the body in the creek a while ago. There's a lot of speculation as to who it might be.
That's so? Who's missing?
A couple of fellas. Manuel Santos hasn't been seen or heard from since last Tuesday. A friend of his disappeared Wednesday.
What's his name?
Manuel Pino.
Getting a lot of Manuels in this case already.
Well, that's a common name around here.
Who do you think the fellow down there on the creek bed is?
Don't know. We're waiting for the coroner's men to get here. Brooks came out just before you did, and he decided to send for Coroner Abbott before he did anything.
Might be a good idea at that. Where'd this fellow Santos live? The one who's missing.
In that house on the creek right down there.
Let's take a look at it. You say this fellow's been gone since Tuesday?
Oh, Monday. Nobody but Pino saw him Tuesday.
Nobody's seen Pino since Wednesday.
Yeah, that's about the size of it.
Place looks deserted, all right.
The door's locked, too. I was up here a few minutes before you came. Tried the door.
Have to try a window, then. Key's on the inside.
These places never are locked up very tight.
Seems to have been a fight of some kind going on in here lately.
I'll say. Blood all over the place.
Let's take a look at the back part of the joint.
Looks like somebody was really looking for something, judging from the way things are torn up.
Wonder why they'd stop to tear pictures out of an album, though.
No telling. There is something.
Where?
Take a look at that wash tub there.
Bloody blankets. Well, looks like we got a first-class murder on our hands.
Yeah, but who's murdered? Santos or Pino?
Maybe neither one, maybe both. Who knows?
The body was taken from the creek and an examination begun to find the cause of death. Meanwhile, Beck and Shea continued their investigation at the local bank.
Good afternoon. I'm Ralph Beck from the sheriff's office. I'd like to see Mr. Dern, the bank manager.
Hi, Mr. Dunn. What can I do for you?
Constable Shea here and I are working on a case we got this morning, that body out there in the creek.
Oh, yes, I heard about that. Who was it?
Well, haven't made a complete identification yet, but there are a couple of men missing, and we thought maybe they might possibly have an account here.
Possibly. Who are they?
Manuel Santos was one of them.
Oh, surely. Santos has an account here.
Manuel Pino was the other one.
Pino has an account here, too.
Much money in either account?
Well, I'll have to take a look. Just a minute, I'll take a look at the ledger, please.
Think the boys might have been bumped off for their money?
Never can tell. It's been done, you know.
You're telling me.
Did you notice anything peculiar in that Santos house?
What do you mean?
Notice what a good radio that fella had compared to the rest of the furniture?
Oh, sure. Santos was a little cracked on that point.
Yeah?
He always bought the best radio money could get. Listened to all the musical programs. Was always singing them at parties, things like that. It was always the life of the party.
How old would you say that radio is?
Well, if he ran true to form, it was less than a year old. He bought the very best every time a new model came out.
Well, gentlemen, there's something very peculiar about those two accounts. Both of them have been closed out this week.
This week?
Yes, here's the ledger sheet on both of them. Now, Pino drew out $450 on the 1st. That's last Tuesday.
Tuesday, eh?
And Santos' account was closed on August 21st with a withdrawal for $400.
What was the last check before that?
Let's see. August 16th for $500. Here are the checks, both made out to cash.
What was the last big check on Santos' account before that?
Let me see. Now, here's one drawn on September 5th, 1936, for $100, made out to a furniture store in Oakland for a radio.
Yeah, I'd have bet on that one. Let me get the name of the store, will you?
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
Who cashed that $500 check?
Well, it's endorsed by Mrs. Harris. She was teaching the boys to write English. I remember when she came in with the check.
How about the one on August 21st?
Well, looks like that one was cashed by Pino.
Well, didn't that seem strange to you here at the bank?
Oh, no, that often happened. Santos often made out checks to Pino. They're the best of friends. Lived in the same house together. Came over to this country together from Portugal.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, they're very close friends. As a matter of fact, when Pino found out Santos hadn't been back last Tuesday, he came to my house with a fellow named Mario, told me to be sure not to cash any more checks on Santos' account.
And you haven't seen him since?
That's right. As far as I know, nobody else has seen him.
Except this fellow Mario.
Except Mario.
Maybe we better speak with this Mario. Mario, I understand you went to Mr. Dern's house with Manuel Pino Tuesday night.
That is right.
Why?
Pino wants to be sure nobody takes Santos' money out of the bank. And the bank is already closed that day.
Oh, well, what did you do then?
Well, I agreed to meet Pino the next morning as soon as the bank was open up. I had to pay speeding fine in Berkeley. He wanted to go to a furniture store in Oakland and look for Santos.
Did you meet him?
Yes, I pick him up on the corner by his place, and we go by the bank to get some money. Then we go to Oakland.
Where did you go first?
Well, we was go to a place on 32nd Street, but the landlady, she no seen Santos. Then we go downtown and look for him, but we didn't no see him. Then we talk about going to the jail, but Pino say that do no good because if Santos is in jail, he'd telephone us.
Is that all you did?
No, we keep looking for Santos till about 4 o'clock. Then I got to come back because I work at night.
What about Pino? What became of him?
I don't know. He say he stay in Oakland and keep looking for Santos. He say he go to his father-in-law's house in Sacramento and see if Santos is there.
Well, why should he go there?
Santos and Pino come from the same place in Portugal. Their wives are there now.
Oh.
They know Pino's father-in-law. Sometimes Santos go to see them.
I see. Where did you leave Pino in Oakland?
Down by the bus station. He was go to catch a bus.
You know anybody who might have it in for these two fellas?
No, nobody. Everybody likes Santos. But lots of fellows didn't like Pino. But nobody had it in for them.
How did Santos and Pino get along?
Like brothers. They lived together 4 years almost in that house.
Uh-huh. Well, thanks, Mario. I may call you later for some more information.
The autopsy completed, Deputy Beck conferred with Sheriff Miller.
Well, Sheriff, I just got the report on that body we found out at Rodeo.
Yeah? Identified him yet?
Yeah. He was Manuel Santos, native of Portugal. Never took out any citizenship papers.
Oh? Any idea who killed him?
Not yet. We're looking for another man, a friend of Santos. He disappeared about the same time. Went to look for Santos and never came back.
Oh, do you suspect him?
Well, from what I can learn from the friends of the two men, this Pino would be the last person in the world to want to harm Santos.
Any idea where he might be?
No, I haven't, unless he's been killed, too. Both men drew quite a lot of money out of the bank about the same time, and both of them may have been murdered.
Well, don't pass up any bets, Ralph.
What do you mean?
Don't leave any points uncovered. Be sure you haven't overlooked anything.
Oh, I will, Chief.
And what's your next move?
I'm going to Sacramento and talk to Pino's in-laws. Maybe they know if he had any enemies.
Okay. Let me know what you find out.
Now, Mrs. Silva, just when did you see your son-in-law last?
I have not seen Manuel Pino for 2, maybe 3 months.
Was he in the habit of coming down here frequently?
He used to come often, but lately he has not been around.
Oh, your daughter, Pino's wife, where's she?
She is in Portugal.
Oh, you left her there with Manuel when you came here?
Yes.
Do you happen to know if Santos and your son-in-law ever had any trouble with each other?
No, they were like brothers, those two.
Uh-huh. You're sure Pino didn't come here last Wednesday?
He has not been here.
You don't happen to know why he hasn't been around lately, do you?
We lent Manuel $500 when he come to this country. He never paid it back. We told him not to come here again until he was ready to pay it.
500, huh?
He owed my brother in Portugal $400. He never paid that back.
I see. Where did Pino come into this country? I mean, where did he land?
He came to Newark in New Jersey, I think it is. It was the same place where we landed. He worked for a man there when he first come to this country. His name was Tavares. He owned a store on Market Street.
I see. Well, if you see Pino, tell him to get in touch with us, will you?
Yes.
You wish to see me?
You're the Portuguese consul for this district?
Vice consul, if that will help you any.
It might. I'm trying to get some information on 2 men who came from your country.
What are their names?
Santos and Pino. They both have the same first names, Manuel.
Oh, yes. I have heard about Manuel Santos. He was murdered, no?
That's what we think. But right now I'm more interested in Manuel Pino. We don't know what's become of him.
You think he has been killed, too?
He may have been.
Just what did you want to know about him?
Well, I'd like to know if he ever took out any citizenship papers.
Only his first papers, according to our records.
Oh, you've already looked him up?
Yes. As soon as we heard he was reported missing, we checked our records.
Uh-huh.
He came into this country at Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah?
He worked for 1 month for Tavares and Madeira at 501 Market Street in that city. Then he came to California. His father-in-law lives in Sacramento.
I know that. I've talked to the family.
Pino has worked for 2 years for the American Smelting Company.
Oh, what I'm more interested in is how he can get out of this country legally.
There are only 3 places where a Portuguese citizen can secure passports. One is San Francisco, one is Boston, and the other is Newark.
New Jersey again, huh?
But in the case of Pino, he couldn't secure his passport except in San Francisco. He would have to show tax receipts showing his income tax had been paid, and those receipts would have to be checked in California.
Yeah, but he might stow away on a ship.
He might. But if you know the Portuguese people, you know that is not likely.
Yes, I've noticed they usually leave the same way they came in. By George, that's an idea. Chief of Police, Newark, New Jersey. Be on the lookout for one Manuel Pino, age 27, height 5 feet 8 inches, weight 175 pounds, brown eyes, dark complexion. Hold and notify Sheriff Contra Costa County, California. State Department, Washington, D.C. Request notification any passport application by Manuel Pino, Portuguese, wanted for murder.
So, you've made up your mind that Pino killed Santos, have you, Beck?
Yes, sir, I have. I want to get you to do something for me, Sheriff.
All right, what is it?
I want to send out bulletins to all police departments, and I want Norm Wilson to fly back to Newark and be ready for Mr. Pino when he shows up.
You're pretty sure he'll head back there, aren't you?
Positive.
You'll let me in for a lot of criticism if this hunch doesn't work out.
I know that, but it'll work out.
Okay, Wilson will hop off in the morning. Your bulletins can go out tonight. Then what?
I'm going to make a list of all the letters we found in Santos' house. All of them that are addressed to Pino, and check all the addresses that are in this country. See if he's communicated with any of them.
You can really think of things to keep busy with. All those things you brought in are in my office, if you want to start in on them now.
I sure do.
Yeah. Notified the post office to hold any mail addressed to Santos or Pino?
Sure. And I've asked him to watch for anything coming from New Jersey.
Well, there's the stuff. Fits right in. What makes you so sure Pino's alive?
Too many angles that don't check. I don't like that coincidence of those bank accounts being closed out so close together.
Oh.
I don't like the idea of Pino looking all over Northern California for Santos when his body was lying in a creek not 100 feet from his own house.
Hey, you've got a point there.
Yeah, and I don't like the absence of pictures of Pino and all this junk we picked up at his house.
Oh, what's wrong with that?
Take a look at this album. Full of pictures of Santos and a lot of other guys, but not a picture in there that looks like Pino's friends say he looks.
Hey, that does seem funny.
Yeah, when we went into that house, it was turned upside down, like somebody'd been looking for something. But all that's missing is Santos' money and pictures. Now, that doesn't make sense.
And you told me a porter at the bus station thought he remembered a man like Pino leaving Oakland on Wednesday.
That's right. And another thing. Pino told this fellow Mario that Santos was going to a certain furniture store to buy a radio. I checked with the store. It was the same one where he bought the other radio. And neither Santos or Pino had been in there since a year ago.
So what?
Pino said definitely that he was going there to find out if Santos had been there. And another thing. He's supposed to have gone to a rooming house on 32nd Street in Oakland. And the landlady says he never showed up there.
From which you conclude
that he wasn't looking for Santos. And that because he knew darned well where Santos was. He knew Santos was lying in that creek.
Yeah? Sheriff Miller?
This is the post office in Rodale. We just got an airmail letter from Newark, New Jersey, addressed to a fellow named Mario here in Rodale.
Okay. Hold it till one of my men gets there. We want to compare the handwriting with some specimens we have here.
All right, we'll hold it.
Well, Ralph, we may have something to go on.
Yeah?
Mario's letter at the Rodeo post office, and it's from Newark, New Jersey.
Hello, Mario. Expecting a letter?
Maybe.
Get much mail in that box of yours?
No, not much. Bills once in a while, that's all.
Yeah, looks like you got more than bills this time.
A letter? By airmail?
Yeah. Not from Newark by any chance?
Yes, it is. How you know?
Just guessed it.
I wonder who it's from. I know nobody in New Jersey.
Why don't you read it?
Look. He's from Pino. Manuel Pino. He's in Newark, New Jersey.
That's all I wanted to know.
But Pino was too wily to give his own address. He gave the address of a friend, but by arrangement with Mario, a decoy letter was dispatched to the suspected man. Then on the 14th of September, 2 weeks after the death of Manuel Santos, a man walked into a store in Newark, New Jersey.
Do that letter come for me yet? The registered letter the postman say have for me.
Is your name Pino? Manuel Pino?
What if she is? Who are you?
I'm Norman Wilson, Sheriff's Office of Contra Costa County out in California. Did you ever hear of the place?
No.
Well, you will, because that's where you're going, right now.
Vehemently denying his guilt, Pino was brought back to California to the office of Sheriff Miller.
Sit down, Pino. We want to ask you a few questions.
I got nothing to say.
We'll find out about that.
Why did you kill Manuel Santos?
I did not kill him.
You're the last person to see Manuel Santos alive.
I did not kill him.
Who did?
I don't know.
Did you see all those people across the street when we brought you in here?
Yeah, I saw them.
You know who those people are?
Sure, they live here.
They're your friends, aren't they?
I suppose so.
And they're Manuel Santos' friends, too, aren't they?
I guess so.
Come over here to the window, Pino. Listen to the welcome your friends have for you.
No, do not let them take me. No.
You want to go out there and argue with them about whether you killed Santos?
No, do not let them get me. Lock me up.
What for? You say you didn't do anything. Why should we lock you up?
I killed him. Yes, I do it. I killed Manuel. I killed him.
All right, start talking.
Why did you kill him?
It was his voice. I no could stand that voice. All the time he was singing. Night and day. In the house, at work, in the car. Always he was singing. One night, it was Sunday night, he had come home from his radio program. Stop it!
Oh, Manuel, what's wrong? Do you not like my singing?
I no can stand it. You never get tired of your own voice.
Of course not. I love to sing. That's why I buy the good radio, so I could learn the new songs. So I can sing them to my friends.
All the time you sing to your friends. All the time you are the life of the party.
Sure.
All the time you make the hit with the girls. While I, Manuel Pino, must sit back and listen to that jackass bray you call your voice.
You do not like my voice?
I hate your voice. It is not a voice. It is a frog croak.
You do not think I can sing? You can sing better, perhaps?
If I could not, I would cut my throat.
You would like to cut my throat, perhaps, eh? Then you could have all everything to yourself. You do not think I know what you have done to me, do you? You do not know that I have found out that you have forged my name to the checks that I banked, do you? You do not know that I found out that all this time you have been stealing from me. You say you cut your throat if you cannot sing better than I. Very well. There is my razor. Cut your throat. Or shall I cut it for you?
Keep away from me, Manuel. You keep away. Keep away. And that be the way it happened. He attacked me, so I kill him. I have to do it.
I get it. The old self-defense racket, eh? Manslaughter instead of murder. Is that it?
Yes, that is it. That is the truth. I've told you how it happened.
Oh, you got it all figured out, haven't you, Pino? You think you'll get off with manslaughter and be out roaming around again in 5 or 6 years. Is that it?
Maybe. Who knows?
I do. Well, you may get away with this. I don't know. But I do know one thing. If you ever do get out, it's back to Portugal for you.
Portugal?
Certainly. You're an undesirable alien. Very undesirable. They'll deport you.
But I cannot go back to Portugal.
Oh, why not?
Santos people, they will kill me.
That's too bad.
Oh, no. No, you cannot do this to me. In Portugal, it is an eye for an eye. A tooth for a tooth.
A tooth for a tooth, huh?
Yes, they will kill me.
Well, Pino, you don't have to worry about that tooth for a tooth stuff.
Oh, no?
No. It's a throat for a throat that's going to ruin you.
In just a moment, we shall hear the concluding facts regarding our program. Meanwhile, if you have motoring problems, I suggest you solve them with pure 100% paraffin-based Realube, the motor oil that defies the weatherman and your greatest speed. Solve them with Rio Grande Cracked, the motor fuel of real police car performance, the most highly recommended gasoline sold in the West. Pino was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to San Quentin for a period of 1 to 15 years. Upon the completion of his sentence, he will be deported to his native land, where the relatives of the murdered Santos wait to impress upon him that crime does not pay.
Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office calling all cars. Attention all cars. Cancellation broadcast 258 regarding a missing person. Suspect in this case is now in custody. That's all. Rosenquist.
This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, bidding you good night for Rio Grande.
Next week at this time, Rio Grande will present The Case of the Glass Gun. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From November 3rd, 1938, Calling All Cars here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox podcast continues now by going back to NBC 73 years ago, November 3rd, 1950, and calling all... No, this is Counterspy. Don Maclaughlin, Mandel, Kramer in the fictionalized version of Your FBI. 73 years ago, the case of the Carbon Consul.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Counterspy.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy. Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Harding, Counterspy. Calling Washington.
United States Counterspies, especially appointed to investigate and combat the enemies of our country, both at home and abroad.
Commencing Sunday, November 5th, Counterspy Reports to the American People will be brought to you on Sundays. Consult your local newspaper for the exact time. Tonight, the case of the Carbon Consul.
Come on, Horace. Must you walk so slowly?
Lydia, this African sun's the hottest I've been under during the whole world cruise. I'm not going to run in it.
Well, we'll never see the native quarter at this rate.
I didn't want to see it in the first place.
You never want to see anything except the bottom of a highball glass.
Well, what's so wonderful about this section? It's dirty, hot, and the natives aren't exactly smiling at us.
Oh, you're just imagining things. Besides, this is atmosphere.
So I smell. But I still say, watch where you're going.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't look where I was going.
Doesn't the white lady have eyes?
Well, I was just...
Or perhaps the walks of my native Tobago land are not wide enough. I should step in the streets to allow the grand lady to pass.
Look, my wife apologized.
How gracious to a poor, humble native that the American should demean himself so.
Well, I never...
Come on, Lydia, let's get out of here.
Yes, leave. This is our land. Africa for the Africans.
Well, I never... Horace, are you going to let him get...
Quiet and keep walking. I told you the natives weren't really smiling.
But it was just an accident.
Yeah, that fellow was looking for trouble. See, he's got a crowd around him, Lydia. He's haranguing them.
Oh, he's pointing at us.
Come on, Lydia. We've got to get to the American consulate.
Horace, they're coming after us.
Watch out, Lydia. They're going to throw things.
Horace! Oh, like that!
Come on, Lydia. This way. Run! Just the way it was, Mr. Burton. The whole thing started from Mrs. Walters bumping into the native.
I see.
And then the brute started shouting at me as though I'd attacked him. I was never so frightened in my life. I still haven't got my breath back. And the stress...
I'll see that restitution is made for the damage, Mrs. Walters.
The devil with that man. You're the American consul here in this heaven-forsaken country. Can't you see that American citizens are afforded some protection?
We do our best, Mr. Walters.
If we hadn't reached the consulate grounds, we might have been killed.
Mr. Walters... I'll enter a formal protest to the government of Tobago land.
All right, and by gosh, you tell them that if they can't keep law and order here, we'll come over and do it for them.
I know how you feel. Mrs. Walters, I'll want you to dictate a formal statement of what happened to my secretary.
I certainly will, and I remember everything. You ready, Mr. Burton? She's one of them. She's
Mrs. Walters, please. Orissa, there's been another anti-American outbreak. Mr. and Mrs. Walters here were the targets of it. I want you to take down their statement of the incident.
Yes, Mr. Burton.
Make several copies. I'll want one each for the authorities here, President Dinard and Police Chief Manaka. And, of course, be sure to send a copy to the African desk of the State Department, Washington. They may want to take drastic action.
If Mr. Peters is in the Counterspy Statistical Department, will he please report to Mr. Harding immediately? If Mr. Peters is in the Counterspy Statistical Department, will he please...
Hello, Mr. Harding. I didn't think you'd gotten back from the State Department so quickly.
Everything happens quickly these days, Peter.
More trouble overseas?
Yes.
Asia?
This time, Africa. But it's all part of the same picture. Tobago land, one of the few non-colonial countries on that continent.
Oh, yes. The papers yesterday. Anti-American riots.
Yeah. Bad for us.
Is the State Department going to take any action, Chief?
Well, they may have to eventually. But first, they want to get a better picture of what's happening in that country.
So?
So, Peters, I want you to go through the personnel records of all our counterspy agents. Extract the records of all our Negro agents. Get them here as soon as possible.
Okay, Chief.
We've got to work fast. The State Department wants to find out whether this anti-American feeling is foreign-inspired before they're forced to make any more protests to the government of Tobago land.
Dinard. My country has asked me as consul to hand you, as head of the government of Tabassaland, this note, formally protesting the treatment of our nationals in your country.
I accept the note, Mr. Burton, with regret, and assure you that we will do all in our power to apprehend and punish the instigators of this disorder.
And now, Mr. President, may I presume to be less formal?
Yes, of course, Mr. Burton.
And unofficial?
Yes.
While awaiting your arrival, I've been talking to your state police chief, Manaka, here. He has some interesting ideas.
I'm sure he has.
I have only tried to be helpful, Mr. President.
I see, Manaka. Now, these interesting ideas, what are they?
I prefer that you hear them from the lips of Mr. Burton. He may give them more weight than a mere police official can.
Your modesty is most unusual, Manaka. Go on, Mr. Burton.
Well, as your chief explains it, Mr. President, the main difficulty of law enforcement here is one of tools.
Weapons, you mean?
Yes, Mr. President.
I can hardly agree, Manaka. It was one man who incited this riot. Surely, if you find him, it will take no more than one weapon to arrest him.
Admitted, Mr. President, but one man is but a single grain in the sands of unrest that surround us. Had I weapons, an efficient police force, I would soon quell this anti-Americanism in our country.
The force quells nothing. Or do you agree with my chief, Mr. Burton?
Well, after all, when I came here to take up my consular post a year ago, I was kidnapped, held for 5 hours by insurgents.
Yes, that is a painful reminder, Mr. Burton.
It might well have developed into a serious international incident if it hadn't been for my prompt liberation by Chief Manaka here and his officers.
I know that, Mr. Burton, and I was grateful to you for minimizing the affair to your government.
Then why not listen to Mr. Burton's advice now?
You both urge me to request the United States government to send us arms and possibly even advisors to help us administer the internal security of Tabassaland. Is that it?
Exactly, Mr. President.
Do that, and we will be able to cope with any disorders that arise, no matter how grave they may be.
I'm afraid I must still disagree with you, gentlemen.
But
I am well aware that there is much discontent in the country, and that in some manner that discontent has been channeled against America, Mr. Burton.
In that case, why
importing American arms and advisors would do nothing but crystallize the unrest. Put your country in the light of an invader. No, Mr. Burton, before I take any such step, I want to discover the reason for this sudden upsurge. This hatred many of my people have for all that is American. If you or your government can assist us in this, I will gladly accept your help. That, Mr. Burton, you can report to Washington.
This way, Carter.
Right behind you, Mr. Peters.
Mr. Harding, this is Agent Lincoln Carter.
How do you do, Carter?
Hello, Mr. Harding.
Have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
Will you want me, Chief?
No, Peters. I'd rather have you set about arranging the details of Carter's transportation, if you will.
I'll get right on it, Mr. Harding.
Doesn't sound as though I'm going to be in Washington very long, Mr. Harding.
No, you won't be, Carter. Not if you're the right man for this job we have.
I hope I am, sir.
Now, let's see. According to your personnel record, you went to Howard University, got a B.A. and M.A. there.
That's right.
Then you did postgraduate work at Columbia, earning the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, huh?
Yes, sir.
Your thesis for your doctorate was on African languages and dialects. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Harding, but...
You, speak these various dialects?
Many of them. The study of African culture and history has been sort of a hobby with me.
Uh-huh.
Something like a Mayflower descendant tracing his antecedents.
I see. Well, tell me, do you know much about the country of Tabassaland?
If it doesn't sound too immodest, quite a bit. As one of the few Negro republics outside of Liberia, I've naturally been interested in it.
Yes, so is the State Department.
Yes, I know. I've been reading in the papers about the recent outbreaks of anti-Americanism there.
You have any opinions on that?
Oh, frankly, I've been puzzled. The history of that country has always oriented it toward America.
We've helped and aided her in many ways. Why this sudden outburst should occur is beyond me.
Now, come over here, Carter. Take a look at this map. Let's consider the question from the viewpoint of geography.
What do you mean?
Well, Tobasso Land could be the eastern doorway to Africa. A foothold there, and any power from the east could gradually spread throughout the entire continent.
Oh, you think Russia
Now,
might...
thinking is unimportant. It's knowledge that counts. Because if the State Department's suspicions are true, it means a reformulation of our policy in that area of the world.
I can understand that, sir.
And it's going to be up to you, Carter, to find out if those suspicions are true.
The job you were speaking of?
Yes. Now, you'll work undercover among the citizens of Tobasso Land. I want you to find out and report where this anti-American feeling is arising from, and whether it's being provoked deliberately.
I see, sir.
Now, because of the nature of communications in the country, you'll have to transmit your reports by diplomatic pouch.
Through the consul there?
Yes, that's right. He'll be notified to allow you the use of the pouch.
Well, what about identification? Will I carry any with me?
No, except for one simple device to establish your first contact with the consul.
What will that be, sir?
This pencil. Now, wait. I'll break it. There. You take this half.
Right, sir.
I'll see that our consul in Tobasso Land gets the other half. When you present the matching half, that will be your identification.
Then I take it I'm not to report to the consul immediately.
No. In fact, don't get in touch with him until you've compiled as complete a report as you can on the situation.
Yes, sir.
Frankly, Carter, if what we suspect is true, your usefulness will be very short-lived after that first report, because the other side has espionage agents as well.
I understand, Mr. Harding.
Now, I know I don't have to stress the importance of this mission to you, Carter, so good luck. And remember, take no unnecessary chances. You may be facing a crafty and dangerous enemy.
You are listening to the case of the Carbon Consul on Counterspy. This Sunday marks the premiere of The Big Show on NBC. Not just any big show, it's The Big Show. NBC's hour and a half of comedy, music, and drama, the best of each. The Big Show will be heard every Sunday evening over most of these stations, with Tallulah Bankhead as the mistress of ceremonies. Your stars for this Sunday's broadcast include Jimmy Durante, Fred Allen, Ethel Merman, Frankie Lane, Mindy Carson, Meredith Wilson, Danny Thomas, and a host of others. All this and Tallulah, too. No wonder it's The Big Show. Now, back to Counterspy.
Yes?
I would speak to the American consul.
Just like that. Do you think the American consul speaks to any native who walks in from the street?
He will speak with me, woman.
Indeed. Then in that case, what name shall I announce?
None.
None. You haven't even got a name.
No one much less tongue than you have. Take this to your master, woman. He will see me at once.
A stub of a pencil. Hardly an impressive introduction.
Must I beg you to take it into Mr. Burton?
I would
Please,
not...
woman, take it to him. It is most urgent.
Very well. Sir?
Yes?
In here.
Oh, thank you.
This is the man, Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Orissa. You may leave.
Your secretary is a very efficient watchdog, Mr. Burton.
Orissa, treasure. A native girl who went to college in the States. Indispensable to me.
I'm sure she is.
But enough of that. It's a relief to learn that you've finally arrived, Mr. Carter.
I've been here in Tobasso Land nearly 4 weeks.
Well, since I got that pencil stub and the note from Mr. Harding, I've expected you for every day of those 4 weeks.
I had no reason to contact you before.
You have now?
I think so. I've made a report of my activities these past 4 weeks, and as Mr. Harding undoubtedly explained, I am to submit it to Washington through your diplomatic pouch.
Yes, I know. I have dispatches to send out myself. I'll have Orissa bring it in now. It'll be leaving in the morning.
I'm glad of that, Mr. Burton.
You, uncovered something of importance?
I think so. You, of course, are free to read the report, Mr. Burton.
Thank you. I shall.
You rang, Mr. Burton?
Yes. Bring in the diplomatic pouch, please.
Yes, Mr. Burton.
Now, Mr. Carter, is there any other way I can be of assistance to your mission?
At the moment, no.
Well, suppose I have occasion to get in touch with you.
You shouldn't have, but if you do, I'm staying at a small shack, number 13 Garden Alley.
The pouch, Mr. Burton.
Oh, thank you, Rissa. Rissa, in the future, when this gentleman calls, he's to be admitted immediately.
Yes, Mr. Burton. I'll make certain he's admitted in the future.
That is, if I come anymore.
Don't tell me your first call is to be your last.
It may well be, Mr. Burton. It may well be.
Hello. It is Police Chief Manaka who speaks. Oh, yes. I see. He knows much? Bad. What, you know where he is? Excellent. The address? 13 Garden Alley. It will be taken care of immediately. Goodbye. Banada.
Yes, Chief Manaka.
There is work for you.
More Americans arriving in our land?
Yes.
It will be simple. Each successive riot becomes easier to incite. I only hope they are as apt targets as those Walters tourists were.
This is not work for a sharp tongue, but a sharp blade.
Blade?
Yes, this American is no tourist, but a spy, and of our color.
Oh?
He must die. There will undoubtedly be a great uproar on his death. So it will be best if you take to the jungles after the job is done.
Yes, Manaka.
I will get word to you when it is safe to return.
As you say.
Now take your blade and call on the man. His address is 13 Garden Alley.
Kerosene lamps. There. I've only... Well, I brought only 2 feet in with me. Yet I see 2 more peeking from beneath that curtain. Very tiny feet, too. I suggest the owner of them come out before I put a bullet through that curtain. Orissa, such a pleasure and a surprise. Seems I won't need my gun after all.
Hardly.
Come a little closer to the lamp, please. The flickering kerosene light scarcely does you justice. To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit?
Curiosity.
A woman has much of that, but still... You were expecting somebody?
No.
Well, I certainly wasn't. We shall see.
American dog!
Look out tonight!
No, you don't!
Watch out!
I will cut your heart out!
Not yet, you won't.
The lamp, it's falling!
Let go!
The floor! The curtain! Fire!
What the devil? Orissa.
Mr. Burton, that man who called on you today.
What about him? What are you doing here at this time of night?
I passed the place where he was staying. His shack is in flames. The whole native quarter is going up. I thought...
You thought right, girl. Come in.
I didn't know whether or not...
Call Chief Manaka. Tell him about the fire. Say I'll meet him there and explain everything. This may have grave international repercussions. Chief Manaka.
Mr. Burton.
What happened? Orissa said there was a fire, but this whole block burned to the ground.
Our native quarters do not resist fire very well.
An obvious statement.
Fortunately, we have it under control now.
The drums, the chanting, what are they for?
To appease the fire gods. Many of my countrymen still place their fate in the ancient customs of their fathers. I myself prefer water to fight fire.
Well, at the moment, the drums are useful. I think we can talk safely under their cover.
We can, Burton. And we have nothing to fear.
The Counterspy agent is dead?
Yes. We recovered his body. Bonada's knife deep in his heart.
You have a most efficient sergeant, Monaca.
Your country, and I don't mean America,
Naturally.
will pay well for this, I hope.
Extremely well.
What about the report you told me about over the telephone? Will that reach the Counterspy chief?
I shall see that it does. But it'll be my version of what's happening in this country, not his agent's.
Good.
And that, coupled with the death of this agent, will force President Denard to request American arms and men. And that should provide you with a revolutionary situation that you can exploit to the utmost.
And I shall, Mr. Burton. As long as you continue to make it worth my while.
I'll continue. With good fortune and a little effort, we may be able to turn this incident into a long and costly guerrilla war involving the great United States.
Mr. Burton,
Oh, Orissa, I'm glad you waited here.
the fire. Was anyone...
His body was found in the shack. The man who was here.
Oh,
Get a pencil and paper, please. I want to dictate a cablegram immediately. The address is Mr. David Harding, Counterspy Headquarters, Washington, D.C.
Mr. Harding! Mr. Harding!
Oh, you made good time, Peters. Did you get all the material?
Here it is in this envelope, Chief. The complete personnel records of all employees at our Tabassalan consular office.
Good. Now, I don't know how long I'll be gone, so you take over from me here.
Right, Chief.
If anything urgent comes up, get in touch with me through the consulate.
All right, sir. And good luck. I hope you manage to make someone pay for Carter's death.
I intend to, Peters.
So long, Chief.
Mr. Harding?
Yes, that's right. Mr. Burton?
Yes, sir. I have a car right over here.
Good.
We'll go direct to my office, unless you'd rather pay your respects to the Foreign Office of Tabassalan first.
No, Mr. Burton, your office first. I want to interview all the employees there before taking any other action.
And this, Mr. Harding, is the only employee left to interview. My personal secretary, Orissa.
How do you do, miss? You be seated.
thank you.
I imagine you want this to be private.
If you don't mind, Mr. Burton.
Not at all, Mr. Harding. I'll be outside if you want me.
Now, Miss Orissa, let's talk about how you were so opportunely on hand for the fire that killed our Counterspy agent, Mr. Carter. Mr. Burton.
Yes?
I've finished here. I wonder if you could arrange an audience for me with the president and the police chief of Tabassaland.
Right away, Mr. Harding. Will you, want me there?
Yes, Mr. Burton. I definitely want you there.
Mr. Harding, I can only express my deep regret at the death of your man. It will only add more fuel to the strain between our two countries.
Perhaps not, Mr. President.
Oh?
You're aware of what Mr. Carter's mission here was?
To investigate the rise of feeling against the United States among my countrymen.
Yes, that's right.
Had he made any reports to you before this tragedy?
One, which I read just this morning.
May we inquire as to his findings, Mr. Harding?
Of course, Chief Monaca. He reported that the hatred of the United States arose out of local circumstances, that there was no outside provocation, and recommended that the United States aid your country in dealing with this by sending weapons and advisors.
You see, Mr. President, it is as I and Mr. Burton have been saying.
I cannot believe it.
I know how you must feel, Mr. President, but when his conclusion is the same as ours, nothing remains for you but to take our advice.
I wouldn't say that, Mr. Burton.
What do you mean?
You see, the report I read was not written by my agent Carter.
What?
That's right, Chief Monaca.
Then who was it written by?
Mr. Burton, our eminent American consul.
Me?
That's right, Mr. Burton, and I've got 2 witnesses to that fact. All right, Orissa, come in and bring the gentleman with you.
Hello, Mr. Burton.
Carter. That's right, Mr. Burton.
Mr. Harding, Burton's got a gun.
Look out, Chino.
No, you don't. Carter, see about him.
He's out cold, Mr. Harding.
You attacked him, your own consul?
Yes, Mr. President, but he was not the real American consul.
I don't understand.
You remember, Mr. President, Burton was abducted briefly when he first arrived here.
Why, yes.
And rescued by your chief, Manaka.
Mr. Harding.
The game's up, Manaka. You were assisting another foreign power, the power whom the so-called Burton was spying for.
You sent that man to kill me, Chief Manaka. Orissa recognized him as Sergeant Bonata, a member of your own police force.
And when Carter killed him instead and the fire started, he decided to use that fact as a trap for you and Burton.
But how did Carter know Burton was on the other side?
Because Burton was the only one besides Orissa who knew Carter's address.
You'll never...
Stop him, Carter!
You're not getting away. Let go.
Well, you've got a nice right there, Carter. Mr. President, Manaka is a citizen of your country. I'm sure you'll know how to deal with him.
I will, Mr. Harding, but please, one more point.
Yes.
If Manaka and Burton were the instigators of the anti-Americanism, why did they keep insisting on my seeking your country's aid in suppressing that feeling?
Because they were aware, Mr. President, that once such a policy was started, we would have to keep sending more aid and more arms. It would have been another drain on America's might, and there's nothing the power he represented would like better than drain off our strength to weaken us for any major conflict that may eventually come. Well, this at least is one spot where they failed in that strategy, and we'll see that they fail again.
Tune in this Sunday, November 5th, and every Sunday thereafter for Counterspy. Please consult your newspaper for the exact time. Listen this Sunday for the exciting Case of the Mental Murderer.
The secret tip was correct. The hostile secret agents planned to destroy the sanity of a certain American. Who that man was and how we combated the scheme is the subject of our next report. Listen on Sunday to
Case of the Mental Murderer on Counterspy. Tonight's Counterspy program originated in New York, was directed by Marks B. Loeb, dramatized by Palma Thompson, and featured Don Maclaughlin and Mandel Kramer. Counterspy is produced by Phillips H. Lord.
November 3rd, 1950, 73 years ago, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll head out for a dangerous assignment in a moment after I remind you to visit our webpage, classicradio.stream. That's classicradio.stream. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues now with an episode of Dangerous Assignment starring Brian Donlevy. This goes back to November 3rd, 1951, 72 years ago today.
Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell.
Yeah, danger is my assignment. I get sent to a lot of places I can't even pronounce. They all spell the same thing, though. Trouble. But when I walk into the commissioner's office, I don't realize this assignment's going to end up just where it started, which is right in the middle of nowhere. Morning, Commissioner.
Steve?
Well, where am I going this time?
Dakar, West Africa. Steve, I want you to think back about 5 years to the fall of Berlin.
Fall of Berlin? What's that got to do with... Now, wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Commissioner, I'm a pretty patient guy. You send me out on a lot of wild goose chases, and I never say a word. But if you think I'm going to go looking for that guy again...
Did I mention any names,
You
Steve?
don't have to. Look, from the best available evidence, when that chancellery in Berlin was burned, the top dog died. 3 times in the last 5 years, you've had me running around the world investigating rumors that he was still alive. I've never been able to prove a thing.
That's exactly right, Steve. We've never been able to prove a thing, one way or the other.
Oh, look, Commissioner.
You look, Steve. We all know that an elaborate escape plan had been worked out for him. That the key figure in that escape plan was a U-boat commander named Captain Shiller.
Sure, we all know that, but so what? Captain Shiller died in the Berlin Blitz, too.
Correction, Steve. A clerk attached to the Chancellery staff identified one of the burned bodies as that of Captain Shiller.
Just a minute. Are you trying to tell me
I'm trying to tell you that an ex-U.S. Navy commander named Williamson, who's in the importing business in Dakar, saw Captain Shiller there 2 days ago.
What? Oh, he must have been mistaken.
He might have been, and then again, he might not have been. That's up to you to find out. Get over to Dakar, Steve. Talk to Williamson. Then go anywhere and do anything you have to get to the bottom of this. Well, that's it. You've got your assignment. Good luck.
The National Broadcasting Company is presenting Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell, colorful two-fisted government agent. At all those places of the world where danger and intrigue walk hand in hand, there you will find Steve Mitchell on another dangerous assignment.
Sure, I've got my assignment. Just a simple little matter of flying to West Africa to investigate a rumor that's been floating around the world for the last 5 years. A rumor nobody's ever been able to prove or disprove. I get all the cinches. It's Monday when my plane lands in Dakar, and I head for the West African Exporting Company in Williamson.
I guess you probably figure I've been seeing things lately, don't you, Mitchell?
Well, at this point, yes.
Well, I'm positive the man I saw here in Dakar the night before last was Captain Shiller, and he was very much alive.
Where did you see him, Williamson?
Coming out of the Michelin. That's a little bar near the waterfront.
Look, I still don't understand how come you were able to make such a positive identification.
I knew Shiller. We met during the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. He was a super stinker, the kind that makes quite an impression on you. So that's why I remembered his face so well.
I see. Well, okay, I'm going to phone the commissioner and ask him to check up on the German clerk who identified Captain Shiller as being dead. Then I want you to show me this bar where you spotted him. Brother, in this dive you could use an oxygen mask. You see him anywhere, Williamson?
No.
Let's talk to the bartender.
Okay.
Oui, monsieur? Did you ever see the man in this picture before, bartender?
Let me see it. But of course, monsieur.
You happen to know his name?
Oui, Captain Strum.
Strum?
He commands a small freighter. He comes to the car 2 or 3 times a year. Always he spends much money.
I see. How long has he been in town this trip?
For several days, monsieur. Even now his freighter is loading, ready to depart.
Okay, thanks. Come on, Williamson. Let's mosey down to the waterfront and take a look, huh?
There's the freighter, Mitchell.
Yeah. Hey, they're loading crates out of that warehouse.
Hey, look, up on deck.
Yeah, Captain Shiller. Keep back in the shadows.
Right.
You know, I'd like to find out what's in those crates. Wait, that looks like a side door to the warehouse just ahead of us. Let's try it for it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody spot us?
I don't think so.
Inside, quick.
Dark in here.
Great, a guard. Quick, get behind those crates.
Okay. Can you spot him, Mitchell?
I can see his flashlight. He's heading this way.
Yes, sir.
Probably got a gun, too.
Yeah, look. When he gets closer, I'll jump him. No.
That was quick.
Yeah, it's got to work fast. It's only a question of minutes before they'll miss him.
Yeah, look. There's a crowbar over there.
Yeah. One crate's better than any other, I guess. I'll try this one. The guard moving any?
No. Oh, he's keeping the lantern now.
Good. Okay. Hand me his flashlight, will you?
Now, here you are. Nothing but a bunch of paintings. What kind of a cargo is that? Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. I'm no art student, but I recognize a few of these. They're masterpieces.
Mitchell. Hey, this could be some of the stuff the Nazis looted from Europe.
5 will get you 10, it is. So they had it hidden here in Dakar all the time. And Schiller's been delivering it little by little to the head art collector himself.
Well, you've got enough evidence to grab Schiller.
Look, that's the last thing in the world I want to do right now. I'm a lot more interested in finding out just whom he's delivering this stuff to and where. You better get back to town. I'll check with you later. Williamson leaves, and I start for the freighter, but just as I get up to it, a figure starts down the gangway. Captain Shiller. I duck back into the shadows. He steps onto the pier and starts in my direction. I flatten myself against the wall of the warehouse. He keeps coming. Then, when he's about 10 feet away, Shiller grabs at his stomach and crumples onto the pier. The shots came from my left, and I can hear someone running along the pier. I take off after him, but my foot hits a cleat, and I go sprawling. By the time I get to my feet, it's too late. The killer's disappeared. Suddenly, I hear a chain rattle. The freighter. They're hauling in the gangplank and getting underway. This is just great. I've got to find out where that freighter's heading for, but how? Then I remember the unconscious guard in the warehouse. I head for the door, but just as I get there, it opens, and out he comes. Hey, remember me? Hey, where's that freighter going?
Get away from me.
Okay, suppose you try that wall on for size. Come on, open up. Where's that freighter heading?
I will not tell you.
Okay, take another bounce. Open up.
No.
Okay, I can keep this up all night.
No, stop.
Let's have it.
The ship is sailing for Casano.
Casano, where's that?
Small port on South American coast.
Okay.
Now I will...
Oh, another gun, huh?
Yeah, another gun.
The guard slowly sags to the pier. Trying to plug me, he'd done likewise to himself, so now at least he won't be able to get word to that freighter that I know where it's heading. I put in a call to the local police, and they come and haul the 2 bodies away. And an hour later, I'm standing in the morgue with a gent named Inspector Bove viewing the remains of the late Captain Shiller.
So all this time, the world has believed this man perished in a bomb shelter under the German Chancellery in Berlin 5 years ago. At any rate, he is dead now. And we have seen all we can see here in the morgue. I will slide the drawer shut. There.
1 moment.
Huh?
Looks like we've got a visitor, Bove.
I would like to view the body, if I may.
I did not hear you come in, mademoiselle.
I did not wish to disturb you, gentlemen.
You are perhaps aware that the morgue is not on the list of sites for tourists to visit here in Dakar. One must have credentials.
Here are mine.
Lisa Hessler.
Yeah?
Trans-European News Agency?
You are a correspondent?
As you see.
Look, Bove, maybe we'd all better go back to your office and talk this thing
I'm
over.
sorry, but I have a right to see the body.
Since when is the murder of a freighter skipper named Captain Strom news?
Please be kind enough to step aside.
But...
Inspector, do you wish to be put on record as having refused an accredited newspaper correspondent's right to view a body in some morgue?
I am sorry, Monsieur Mitchell, but she is within her rights.
Okay. Take a look, lady.
Thank you. Are you quite certain, gentlemen?
Certain of what?
Certain that this dead man is Captain Shiller.
What? According to his papers, this guy's name is Strom.
Yeah, I know. But I'm inclined to think, as you also apparently are, that this man is Shiller.
Oh? Mind telling us why you're interested in him?
I've made a career of him.
What do you mean?
For 5 years, I've been trying to track him down. You see, I've always been convinced that Schiller did not die in that burning bomb shelter under the Chancellery in Berlin. I felt if I could find him alive, he might lead me to someone else who might not have died in that fire.
Sounds like you're dealing in a lot of mites, Lisa.
Perhaps. And yet those mites, as you call them, might lead me to the biggest news story of the century.
Well, what does your editor think about all this?
Now, unfortunately, he thinks I'm slightly crazy. Threatens to fire me unless I give up this idea and return to Europe.
I see. Well, you gotta admit the idea is pretty fantastic.
Is it, Mr. Mitchell?
Look, figure it this way. Even if this guy is Captain Shiller, he's dead. You can't get any information or leads out of him. Where does that leave you?
Unfortunately, at the end of the line. My editor would not even print a story about this unless I could find something further.
That's what I mean.
5 years of chasing a shadow. Now it ends on the slab of a morgue in Dakar. Well, that is life, I suppose. Good evening, gentlemen.
Mademoiselle?
So long, Lisa.
One cannot help feeling sorry for her. 5 years' work on one story, and then...
Look, save your sympathy, Beauvais. I've got to keep her thinking that this is the end of the line for her. If she got one inkling, it wasn't. And if a single whisper of it ever hit the newspapers, this whole deal would go up in smoke.
I see.
Well, Inspector, thanks for everything. Looks like my next stop is South America. So the next morning I get aboard the plane. I sit there as we take off, patting myself on the back for getting Lisa Hessler off the trail. Then I start getting an uneasy feeling right between the shoulder blades. I look up, and there, standing in the aisle beside me, is the reason for my jitters.
Good morning, Mr. Mitchell.
Lisa Hessler.
So, we are both flying to South America. What a coincidence.
Yeah. You decide to take a vacation, maybe?
Yeah, you might call it a vacation. See, I happened to hear last night of a little port in South America called Cosano.
That doesn't sound like much of a spot for a vacation.
I also happened to hear that the freighter commanded by Captain Shiller, or Captain Strom if you prefer, is owned by the Muhlendorfer Freight Lines, whose home port is Cosano. So, I thought this would be a perfect spot for a vacation.
Oh, great. Looks like you've got a few sources of information I hadn't counted on.
Yeah, I have, Steve.
Look, I just don't want any publicity on this thing until it's over, one way or another, Lisa.
Then you must realize we are on opposite sides of the fence, Steve. You would like to keep the search a secret. I intend to write this story for millions of readers all over the world.
I see. Okay, Lisa. You're asking for trouble.
It is to be a duel between us, then.
I'm afraid the cards are stacked against you.
Are they? I warn you, Steve, do not underestimate me. It would be the biggest mistake of your life. As a matter of fact, it might even be fatal.
You are listening to Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell.
Well, this is just great. Here I am on a super-secret mission. I know that one peep out of anybody, and I'm cooked. Now I'm up against a girl who's all out to spread it in every newspaper in the world. Our plane lands in South America, and then it's another day by train to Casarno, and at the depot, Lisa disappears, probably trying to find the offices of the Muhlendorfer Freight Line, so I slip a cab driver 5 pesos and get there ahead of her. Inside, there's a sleepy-looking clerk idly swatting at cockroaches with a newspaper. Nice shot.
Gracias, senor. I seldom miss.
Well, you probably get a lot of practice. I see quite a few targets running around.
One less. What is it you want, senor?
Well, I'd like a little information about your shipping line.
Information? What is there to tell about it?
That's what I want to find out. You see, I've got quite a little freight I want to ship, and...
Oh, I'm afraid our line is not for you, senor.
Oh? What do you mean?
Well, we operate but one ship, and that one is under contract to an importing company. Why, senor, there is a big one crawling along the counter. If you will step out of the way.
Sure. That's the ship that Captain Strom commands? You missed.
You are crowding me, senor.
Sorry. When will the ship be in?
Quien sabe, who knows? I'm sorry, I cannot help you, senor.
I see. Okay. Well, keep 'em flying, Buster.
But cockroaches do not fly, senor.
Oh, Steve.
Well, hello, Lisa.
So, you beat me here.
Yeah, but it didn't do me much good. Clerk seems to be specializing in knowing nothing about anything.
Well, since you have told me what you found out, I tell you what I found out. I've been at the waterfront and learned the ship is expected the morning after tomorrow.
Oh? Say, you're being pretty obliging all of a sudden, aren't you, Lisa?
Well, let us just say I would like to beat you in a fair fight, Steve.
Okay, let's just say that. In that case, I'll probably see you down at the docks the morning after tomorrow.
You may count on it, Steve.
So, 2 mornings later, I'm down on the dock. Lisa's there, but the freighter isn't. We wait a couple of hours, and then we gradually get the idea that there must have been a tip-off. The freighter must have docked at another port. We dash back to the freight line office, but the joint is locked up tight. So there we are again, fresh out of Leeds. Lisa gets that end of the line look again and leaves, and I head for a bar across the street.
Ships which do not arrive when they should. This can be quite annoying.
Huh? Who are you?
Lieutenant Segarra of the military. May I sit at your table?
Why, yeah.
You are Senor Mitchell, no?
I'm Senor Mitchell, yes. How'd you know?
Your commissioner traced you here from the car. He spoke to me over the telephone. He would like for you to telephone him.
Oh, yeah, I suppose he would like a report, but at this point, all I can report is that I've been on a wild goose chase and I'm beat. Hey, wait a minute. You mentioned something about ships not arriving?
You see, senor, I also was very anxious that the freighter should arrive. You see, Senor Mitchell, I do not believe this is such a wild goose chase as you think.
What do you mean?
For some time, I have been convinced that my country unknowingly entertains some unwelcome guest.
Oh? What have you got in the way of facts to back up that theory, Lieutenant?
Unfortunately, merely fragments of gossip from a few peasants.
Yeah, that's what I thought. This whole deal seems to be fragments of gossip.
I have in mind a particular plantation several kilometers inland from here.
What about it?
There is a high wall around the villa with barbed wire. It is rumored that the captain of the freighter stays there when his ship is in town.
Oh? Well, the captain won't be staying there anymore, Segarra. He got knocked off in Dakar.
Oh, I see. As you probably realize, I would like very much to get inside that villa. But this I cannot do officially without some evidence of law violation.
Yeah.
But there has been no law violation. So it appears I can do nothing officially. However, if someone else wished to try to do something unofficially, I might be able to, as you say, lend a hand.
Oh?
I am quite tired, Mitchell.
Tired?
Yes. I have some leave coming to me. It occurred to me I could take that leave at almost a moment's notice.
I get it. Okay, Lieutenant, thanks. I may call on you later.
Take a telephone, Steve. I've been trying to get in touch with you.
Wait a minute, Commissioner. I can hardly hear you. Jiggle the phone or something, will you?
That better?
Yeah. What's on your mind?
I said I'm glad you telephoned, Steve. I've been trying to get in touch with you.
Oh, what's the matter?
When you called me from Dakar, you wanted the name of the clerk who claimed Captain Shiller died during the fall of Berlin?
That's right. The one who identified a burned body as that of Captain Shiller. The clerk lied, Commissioner, and I figured you might have one of our agents in Europe run him down and question him.
We can't find the clerk anywhere, Steve. But it's a her, not a him.
Oh?
Name's Lisa Nesvig. She married a Nazi colonel who was killed at Stalingrad. After the war, she dropped out of sight.
Lisa Nesvig? Hey, wait a minute. Her maiden name wouldn't by any chance be Lisa Hessler, would it?
Why, yes, Steve. How did you know?
Skip it. I'll call you later. So, Lisa Hessler, girl reporter, is actually the one who lied about Schiller's death 5 years ago. I head for her hotel in a hurry and get there just in time to see her leave by a side door. She gets into a car and drives out of town. I follow. Half an hour later, she pulls off the road and leaves her car. Then I spot the villa. It's got a big iron gate and a high wall and a high voltage wire running along the top of it. And I know this is the villa that Lieutenant Segarra was telling me about. Lisa sneaks up to the place and looks it over from behind a clump of bushes. And this I don't get at all. If she's one of the outfit, I should think they'd welcome her with a velvet carpet and a brass band, but she's acting like she wouldn't be welcome at all. Finally, she leaves, and I'm about to follow suit when the gate opens and a bunch of peons trudge out and start working in the fields, all except one, who throws a couple of quick looks around and then sneaks off. He could be worth following, so I do. He heads straight for a village down the road and disappears into a bar. Great. He's just sneaking away from work to get a snootful. Then it dawns on me. Okay, let him get a snootful. It sometimes has a habit of loosening tongues. I sit down across the street and wait. An hour later, out he staggers. He sits down in the dirt by the doorway and starts singing. At least I suppose he called it that. Hi.
Hello.
You must be happy.
Happy? Who's happy? I'm sad. Pajarito.
Well, you've got a voice to match. What's the trouble?
Pajarito.
Hey, look, Caruso, save the audition, will you? South Pacific's already been cast.
No one likes me to sing. It's a sad world. All the time work, no time to sing.
You work out at the plantation?
You see.
Who owns it?
Quien sabe? We never go near the villa.
Oh, you've been ordered to stay away, maybe?
See, no one likes me.
Did you ever see any of the people who live in the villa?
See, 3 men. One of them dressed like a sailor, but he don't come there for a long time.
That'd be Shiller. Who else?
A tall man, and one not so tall.
Yeah? What does this not-so-tall man look like?
I don't know. I only see him from a distance. I think maybe he's a little bit crazy.
Huh?
He stands on a balcony and he makes speeches to himself.
I see.
You know, I think maybe I talk too much. I think maybe I better sing. Pajarito.
You already have, Buster. And thanks. I go into the bar, find a phone booth, and call Lieutenant Segarra.
Yes, Mitchell. What is it?
You told me you could go on leave at a moment's notice. The moment is now.
Very well. Where?
The villa outside the city.
I'll be there as soon as I can.
I go outside, but the peon has stopped singing. I bend over and raise his sombrero. Then I see why. You can't very well carry a tune when your throat's been cut. Now I know I've got to move fast. I head for the villa again. It's almost dark when I get there. I roost in a clump of bushes near the wall, wondering how I'm going to get in without being electrocuted. And then I hear the sound of engines. I peek out of the bushes. 5 trucks are pulling up to the front gate. They're probably bringing those crates from wherever the freighter docked. Suddenly, it hits me. This is my big chance. The driver in the lead truck gets out and goes up to the gate, and I slip up to the last truck in the line. Before the driver can move, I nail him with a left, slip on his coat and cap, and slide in behind the wheel. By now, the rest of the trucks are rolling through the gate. I step on the gas, and then I feel something cold and hard in the back of my neck. A gun barrel.
Keep driving straight ahead, Steve.
What? Lisa?
Yeah. Go on, through the gate.
Okay.
So, we both chose the same way of getting into the villa.
Yeah. But I don't get why you have to sneak in. After all, you're one of the boys, aren't you? So now we get inside, you turn me in and get a medal, huh?
There through the gate. Pull up to that little building off by itself. We can hide there. Come.
Okay. Look, I still don't get this, Lisa. You must be in pretty solid with these boys. Why the hide-and-seek act?
In solid. That is very funny, Steve. If there were more time, I would laugh. Oh, here we are. Inside.
Hey, looks like a bunker of some kind or a bomb shelter.
Yeah, it is. I recognize the design, Steve. It is identical with the bomb shelter under the Chancellery in Berlin.
Now, would you mind telling me just what this is all about? You're not just Lisa Hessler, girl reporter. You were the one who claimed that Shiller was killed in Berlin.
Yeah. I identified a burned body as that of his, but I lied, Steve.
I know that. Why did you lie?
My father, a naval commander, was murdered by Captain Shiller on direct orders of the leader himself. I knew the burned body was not that of Shiller, that the 2 of them must have escaped. I thought I would have a better chance of finding and killing both of them if they'd believe the world thought them dead.
So, you're the one who killed Shiller in Dakar, huh?
Now I am to have the honor of killing one more. The man I'm convinced is in the villa.
Hey, what are you going to do with that grenade?
They're going outside, Steve.
Look.
I mean business. Move.
Okay. Lisa, give this thing up. Let me handle it.
Sorry.
Don't you know that you're liable to get killed trying to pull a deal like this?
You think that matters to me now? Here, into these bushes near the road. There. It's far enough. This will be a convenient place for you to remain hidden. No, keep your back to me.
Remain hidden? Hey, what? Oh.
Goodbye, Steve.
Mitchell! Mitchell!
Oh.
Lieutenant Segarra, how did you get inside the wall?
As I approached it, there was an explosion in the rear. It must have shorted out the high voltage wire. I was able to climb the wall.
Explosion? Hey, the villa's on fire. So that's what Lisa did with that grenade.
Mitchell, look. 2 men running out of the villa. They're heading for the bomb shelter.
Yeah, I recognize the tall one. He was a member of the German High Command.
How about the shorter one?
I can't tell from this distance. He's got that hat pulled down over his face. Come on, we gotta find out.
Wait. Look, the girl.
It's Lisa. Slipping into the bomb shelter from the other side. That must have been her plan, to set the villa on fire, knowing they'd head for that bomb shelter.
The 2 men are inside the shelter now.
Come on, we've got to get there before anything happens.
Mitchell, that shorter man. Do you think it is really...
I don't know. Get down, Segarra.
Mitchell, that explosion. It was in the bomb shelter.
Yeah, come on.
Flames are coming out of it.
I'm going in.
Be careful now. Powder smoke.
Yeah, this way.
It's clearing out a little. You could... Mitchell.
Yeah. 3 bodies, badly burned.
Look, a charred fragment of a dress.
Yeah, that one's Lisa. The tall guy's over there. That leaves just one more, the shorter man. Right here.
Well, how do you think?
Not enough left to identify.
What do you think it might be?
I don't know. I guess we'll never know now.
Mitchell, maybe he wasn't here at all. Maybe he really was killed in Berlin.
Maybe.
But if he was here, how could he have escaped? 3 people came in here, and now we see 3 bodies.
Well, there could have been a guard in here, and there could be a trap door under all that wreckage.
But it does not sound possible.
No? Look around you, Segarra.
What do you mean?
This bomb shelter, it's an exact replica of the one in Berlin where he was supposed to have been killed before. There was an explosion and a fire there, too. In other words, this is the same identical setup as before.
But Lisa must have been sure she had her men when she blew herself up.
Yeah. She also could have been in on the gag all along and be willing to sacrifice herself to keep the big boy operating. This whole thing could have been just a setup, Segarra.
See, but maybe...
Yeah, doing a lot of maybeing, Lieutenant. Just don't forget the biggest maybe of all.
What is that?
If he did it before, maybe he's done it again.
Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell, is written by Bob Reif and Adrian Jandot, with music by Robert Armbruster, and is produced and directed by Bill Karn. Be with us again next week at this time when Brian Donlevy, starring in the role of Steve Mitchell, will embark on another Dangerous Assignment. Dangerous Assignment came to you from Hollywood. Judy Holliday returns tomorrow on The Big Show, now Man Called X on NBC.
So very few answers and more question marks. Dangerous Assignment, as it was originally broadcast 72 years ago, November 3rd, 1951. Tomorrow's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox will feature The Milton Berle Show, The Great Gildersleeve, and The Joe Miller Joke Book, along with another episode of Lum and Abner, which you will hear one coming up in just a moment. Nope, we're not done with Squire Skimp and the Prince. No, we're going to hear about the Prince today. And Lum's going to fess up. This episode of Lum and Abner originally broadcast November 3rd, 1941, 82 years ago.
The makers of Alka-Seltzer bring you Lum and Abner. Folks, this week, and this week only, you have a chance to get a large-size picture of Lum and Abner absolutely free. Now, the makers of Alka-Seltzer will send you one of these big, fine autographed pictures, free and postpaid. All you have to do is to write to this radio station and ask for it. Now, this is no ordinary picture. It's one you'll want to frame and to show to your friends. For not only does it show how Lum and Abner look in character, but also how they appear in real life. It's just the kind of picture you've always wanted of your old Pine Ridge friends. And think of it, it's yours, absolutely free. You just send your name and address, a postcard will do, to Lum and Abner in care of the station to which you're now listening. But say, will you let me give you a word of friendly warning? The supply of these pictures is limited, and this offer will be made only this week. So if I were you, I'd write today. Sit down right now while you're still thinking about it, and write your name and address on a penny postcard or in a brief letter, and send it to Lum and Abner in care of this station. Then your free autographed picture of your old radio friends will be sent to you just as quickly as possible. Don't delay and be sorry. Send for yours today before it's too late. And now, let's see what's going on down in Pine Ridge. When the prince called on Lum yesterday to talk him into aiding the prince and the squire in their healing racket, he discovered that Lum had paid $500 instead of $100 for his services, and that Squire had kept the difference. With murder in his eye, the prince rushed out to take care of his double-crossing friend, Squire Skimp. As we look in on the little community today, we find Lum and Abner in their Jot-'em-Down store, still waiting to hear the results of the affair. Listen.
Yeah, Grannies, I can't wait to hear how the prince and the squire come out.
Well, as mad as the prince was when he found out Squire's trying to beat him out of $400, I wouldn't be surprised to hear a shooting taking place, Lum.
Oh, he was mad when he left out of here. And I don't blame him.
No.
I don't mind losing the $500 they charged me to put on that fake healing of my broke leg, but I do hate to see that Squire Skimp get any of it.
Well, a body'd think he'd at least give the prince half of it. But according to the prince, Squire told him you just paying $100.
Yeah, that's Squire Skimp. Now, Grannies, there just ain't no one thing that feller wouldn't do. He ought to be locked up in the penitentiary and have him throw the key away.
Well, I hope this learns you a lesson not to have no more dealings with him, Lum.
Oh, it has, it has. I wouldn't believe him on oath. Truth ain't in him.
As many times as he's tried to skin us out of money, we ought to know better by now.
Well, the best thing to do is just not to have no more dealings with him.
Or to run him out of the store every time he comes in here.
Yeah.
Very odd is him trying to cheat old Grandma Masters out of $300.
Well, him and that prince both will get what's coming to them. You just watch what I tell you. Like that old lettered saying of mine, chickens always come home to roost.
Yeah, Huh?
I say chickens always come home to roost.
Did they get some of Grandma Master's chickens, too?
Grandma Master's chickens?
Well, it's about 4 miles over to her place from Squire's house.
What's that got to do with it?
Well, she's expecting them to stay over at Squire's of a daytime and come over to her place to roost of a night. I don't believe it'll work, Lum. Chickens walk awful slow.
Abner, when I said chickens come home to roost,
well,
I
it'll
mean...
take them all day to get over there in time to roost. And then they won't no more than get set comfort on the perch before they'll have to jump down and head back to Squire's in order to be there by daylight.
Yeah, for goodness sakes, Abner.
Them chickens ain't gonna do neither one of them no good. Just walk the fat off theirselves for nothing. And you know a hen ain't gonna lay an egg while she's walking. They gotta sit down and concentrate. I don't see why Grandma don't just slip out there and shut the door when they get over there tonight.
Abner, they don't walk back and forth, so
well,
you
a
get
chicken can't fly that far, Lum.
Of course not.
Let's see. They ain't walking and they ain't flying. What's the answer now?
Abner, when I say chickens always come home to roost, I ain't talking about the kind of chickens you are.
Oh, you mean them turkins? Them half chickens and half turkeys that Grandma's been raising?
No, what I mean, all the things Squire Skimp did will come back to him. Be laid right on his own doorstep. His chickens will come home to roost.
Well, he's got a hen house over there.
I know he has.
Well, why they done laying on the doorstep then? Why don't they get up there in the nest where they belong?
For goodness sake.
Front steps or back steps?
I don't know, Abner.
Be a lot handier on the back steps. Closer to the kitchen.
Oh, swan to goodness. I believe that imagination of yours gets worse all the time. I started out to take... Wait a minute. If he ain't got a nerve...
Who?
Squire Skimp.
Well, it's his own business where he keeps them, Lum. I thought they's Grandma Master's chickens there when he...
I mean, he's coming up on the porch out there. You'd think after us catching on to how crooked he is, he'd be ashamed to come over here.
Well, I'll be that blame.
Yeah, he's coming in. Now, Grannies, we ought to just ignore him. Don't even speak to him. Let him know he ain't welcome in here.
Well, I think we ought to tell him what we think of him.
No, don't say nothing. Grannies, look at his face. Prince must have beat the everlasting daylights out of him.
Mind out.
Make out like you don't even see him.
No.
Lum, Abner. Gentlemen, I know exactly how you must feel, and I don't blame you. I stand before you with deep humility, a humble man. I don't ask forgiveness. I only ask that you suspend judgment until you've given me a chance to explain.
What happened to your face?
Oh, a very unfortunate accident yesterday afternoon, Abner. I fell down the steps.
You trip over a chicken?
No, the steps in the house, Abner.
Oh, I thought that Lum meant the steps outside.
What's that, Abner?
Nothing. Go ahead, Squire.
Oh, thank you, Lum. As I said before, I've come to you to be judged. I know how you must feel towards me because of certain questionable actions that I've been more or less connected with for the past several days. But even though my face is bruised, the pain I'm suffering physically is nothing in comparison with the mental pain I've endured these last few days, when I was being forced to act as I did towards my good friends here in Pine Ridge. But that's all over now, men. I can speak freely, now that I've cast aside the shackles that bound me to the will of that despicable criminal who has cast a blight upon our little community.
You mean the prince?
Shut up, Abner. Let him talk.
Yes, at last I reached the point where I refused to be his tool any longer. And at great danger to myself, I ran him out of town. I'm happy to say we are now rid of him. No longer will he be allowed to prey on the innocent people of our little city on the pretense of healing broken bones.
I don't believe I understand all this, Squire.
Of course you don't, Abner, and I don't blame you. In fact, I'm going to have a difficult time making all my good friends understand the true facts of the case. But as soon as I discovered he was a crook, right...
You mean you never knowed he was a crook when you sent for him?
Why, of course not. When I knew Louis, or the prince, he was a legitimate bone healer. But evidently since then he's fallen into the unfortunate ways of the criminal.
Yeah.
But when I found it out after the demonstration the other night, it was too late. And by holding a gun to my head and threatening my life, he forced me to carry out his nefarious plans to extort money from our good citizens. Oh, the mental tortures I've suffered. No one will ever know.
Well, what about me giving you that $500 and you telling the prince you own it?
Oh, the mental tortures I've suffered. I don't even like to talk about it.
No, I guess not.
Several times I refused to carry out his fiendish plans, but he threatened to expose your fake broken leg, Lum. So naturally I had to carry on to protect my good friend.
Did he sure enough do that?
Yes, it evolved to the point that I had to either protect the good citizens of this community or expose you, my best friend. I weighed one against the other, Lum, and decided that you meant more to me than all the rest of the whole bunch combined.
Grannies, I'm proud to hear it, Squire. I never knowed we was so close.
What about that $100 check from the insurance company that you cashed and kept the money for?
Yeah, that money ought to be sent back to them, Squire.
Yes, the prince forced me to keep that too long. But I'm going to send it back to the company tomorrow.
Well, why don't you just bring it over here and let me send it back to them? And I'll write them a letter and explain the whole thing to them.
Why, yes, if you prefer to handle it that way, Lum, yes, I'll bring it over tomorrow.
Well, good. Now, what about the money you collected from Miss Davis and that feller over at Odin for the prince to heal him?
Well, unfortunately, when I ran the prince out of town, he still had that money on him, and I didn't know it. However, I plan to track him down to the ends of the earth, Lum, and get that money back and return it to those good people.
Why, Granny, you better get started tracking him then before he gets too big a head start on you.
Yes, I'm going to do that. In fact, I'd better be going right now. I have to see a man about some bloodhounds right now. I'll see you later. And Lum, I hope you'll try to explain this to all my good friends.
Yeah, I will, Squire. I'll try to get 'em not to misjudge you now.
Thank you, Lum. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good day.
Yeah, so long, Squire. It looks like we had old Squire down wrong after all, Abner. A body ought to hear both sides of a story before he judges somebody like that.
Yeah, maybe so, maybe so. Oh, there's Cedric coming in there.
Yeah, just noticed Cedric never even spoke to Squire whenever he passed him out there.
Well, nobody in town speaking to him. You've been telling everybody what a crook Squire is.
Yeah, I ought to be ashamed of myself. I'll have to straighten him out on that. Come in, Cedric.
Yeah, howdy, Cedric.
Howdy. I got a letter here for you, Mr. Lum.
A letter?
Yes, Mom. Mr. Dick Huddleston told me to hand it to you. It's from Pine Ridge, too.
Well, what's somebody in Pine Ridge doing writing me a letter?
I don't know. His mail last night, Mr. Dick said.
Looks like Paul Warner's handwriting.
Yeah, just like that, Paul. He's too dad blame lazy to walk over here, so he just writ you a letter.
Well, I'll be dead blame.
Who's it from, Paul?
Listen to this. Dear Uncle. Must be from the Prince. That's what he always called me.
Well, what's that varmint wanting now?
Next time you see Squire, you'll know what happens to mugs that double-cross the Prince. Enclosed is $150, which the dame and the guy kicked in for the bone-healing gag. Give it back to them with my compliments. I made the Squire fork it over so I could send it back. I'm keeping your 500 slugs, Uncle, as a lesson not to ever get mixed up with a dishonest crook like Skimp. Signed, Louis the Prince.
Well, I'll be dad blamed.
You see, that's what I say, Abner. You oughtn't to judge a feller till you've heard both sides of the story.
How many of you folks would like a free picture of Lum and Abner? Haven't you often wondered as you've sat there in your home listening to these visits with Lum and Abner, just what these two lovable old cronies down in Pine Ridge really look like? Well, now you can find out. Yes, the makers of Alka-Seltzer will send each and every one of you listeners a special, large-sized, autographed picture of Lum and Abner absolutely free and postpaid. Nothing to buy. It costs you absolutely nothing. You just send your name and address on a penny postcard to Lum and Abner in care of this radio station. This picture's a large 8 by 10-inch size, which will look mighty attractive, framed, and placed near your radio. When you see it, you'll be glad you sent for it, because it shows how Lum and Abner look in character and also what they look like in real life. Besides, it's autographed and it's yours, free for the asking. Now, you can't buy one of these new Lum and Abner pictures at any price, but you can get one absolutely free as a gift from the makers of Alka-Seltzer. Remember, this offer will be made for a limited time only, so don't wait. Send your name and address to Lum and Abner in care of this radio station right away. By all means, don't put it off. Send a postcard for your free picture today before it's too late.
But don't send a penny postcard, because if you do, not only am I not going to be able to fulfill it, if you send a penny postcard, it's going to get returned because it's 50 cents short. It's now 51 cents to mail a postcard. Lum and Abner, as it was broadcast 82 years ago, November 3rd, 1941, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Have yourself a great Thursday, won't you, please? Tomorrow, we'll get back to comedy. We'll hear more from Lum and Abner, the CBS Radio Workshop, and the Joke Book, Joe Miller Joke Book, the Great Gildersleeve dealing with Leroy and his studies, and Milton Berle with a salute to football. That'll be coming up on our next Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox podcast. Have yourself a great Thursday, and we'll see you next time around.